Hey guys, my name is Matsumiyo, and welcome to your episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I'll give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you'd like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for the day comes from John, and it is, I was wondering, do you think that the nerf to Blitz's shield cooldown was too much? So I feel like we're gonna have this discussion until the end of time because clearly it's very difficult to balance Blitz out. It seems like every other season he's seen some sort of adjustment, and I think it just really comes down to the simple fact that a character like Blitz is either going to feel underwhelming to play as, or he's going to be frustrating to go against, and finding that sweet spot where he is actually fun to play, but also balanced in the grand scheme of things, and he's not something that really annoys everyone that's on the receiving end. I don't really know if that is something that is actually achievable. Now, what he's referring to, if you guys aren't aware, is that in this most recent update, Blitz now has a longer cooldown in between his flashes. So if he rushes into the objective room, he uses his ability. If that flash doesn't actually blind anyone, the people on the receiving end, everyone on defense, then has, I think, like 5 to 7 seconds to be able to react and hopefully take him out. So there's now a little bit more interaction there. And so at least for me personally, I think that this was a great adjustment. Before, all really Blitz needed to do was close the gap. Now, I understand that's not always the easiest thing to do in every situation as a Blitz. I understand he does have some weaknesses, but because he does have a lot of tools to be able to get up close and personal, as soon as he did so, that was basically it for that defender. Because he could just continuously flash people over and over, if the first one missed, it really didn't matter because he could have another one coming directly after that. And so now that they've increased that cooldown, as a defender, you can finally react a little bit to his mistakes and hopefully come out on top. You're still going to be at a disadvantage, but at least you have a little bit more going for you. And so by and large, I think that this is a great step in the right direction. That said though, and I think the reason why we constantly talk about this character all the time, why people are always saying that he's underpowered or he's overpowered, is that at his core, he is just an annoying operator to deal with. He is just frustrating from his very design. As soon as you do flash someone as him, it completely takes away control over that person, and it's basically GG. It doesn't matter if it's a 1 second cooldown or a 10-second cooldown, having someone rush at you with a giant shield, which it feels like you can't get any hits against them because of the crazy hitboxes, then they flash you and take you out, that sucks. That's not a fun experience, especially when you're playing as a 3-armored operator and there's really no viable way for you to run away because he runs faster than you while he's sprinting. That's not an enjoyable experience whatsoever, and I really do believe that gets to the heart of the issue for why so many people have a problem with this character. It's not because he's necessarily overpowered, it's just simply because he's not fun to go against. And so overall, I'm not really sure what Ubisoft is going to be able to do about him. If we take a look at the charts that Ubisoft gave us not too long ago, he's actually quite mediocre compared to a lot of the other operators available on offense. Like he's definitely not the best. But this is just Diamond and Platinum on PC, and so maybe at lower ranks or on console, it's a different story. I really don't know. And so let me know what you guys think about Blitz. Do you think that I'm on to something? Do you think it just comes down to the very design of this operator? Or do you think that Ubisoft will eventually find that sweet spot where he's fun to play as and he's also not frustrating for defenders? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. The next question comes from William, and it is, what are your thoughts on the new Ghost Recon Breakpoint game coming out? I'm actually really looking forward to this one. It seems like the developers of Ghost Recon Wildlands took the criticism and feedback from that game, expanded upon it, and what looks like made a much more tactical and hardcore experience. Now, of course, it remains to be seen because we only got a brief look, but they did give a couple of examples. One that I found really interesting is that now when your character takes damage, it isn't just simply going to lower your health pool. It's now going to have more consequences. If you take a significant amount, it may get eventually to the point where your character isn't even able to sprint around the environment, which of course is going to put you at a pretty severe disadvantage. Now, of course, you'll be able to deal with this with splints and health packs, for example, but it is going to add a different layer and depth that wasn't present in something like Ghost Recon Wildlands. If you just charge on in, assuming that your character is going to be able to soak up a lot of damage, and the only thing is that you're going to be lower in health, you may be in for a rude awakening. So you're probably going to have to take this game a little bit slower and stealthily. One way that's going to assist with this is the new mechanic where you actually can lay prone in mud and then cover yourself in that mud to make yourself blend into the environment. I got to admit, the first time they showed that off at the event, it was pretty cool. Seeing everyone then walk around you as they hunted you, and then you turn the tables on them, now they're the hunted, that was a pretty cool moment. It seems like they're actually focusing more on that stealth component in this game, and I got to admit, I think that's a good direction. One of the issues that I always had with Ghost Recon Wildlands when I played it about a year ago was that it felt like most missions you could just rush on in and take everyone out. Now maybe they've changed things over this last year. I know that game has seen a lot of updates, but it didn't seem like there was much of a focus on stealth because it just simply wasn't required. As long as you had a good shot, it really didn't matter. And so I'm really crossing my fingers that with this game, it's gonna be challenging enough that you are gonna really feel like you're required to use more of your tools and more of that stealth to be successful. Now, what gives me hope for this is that it doesn't seem like we're gonna be going against some random guy in the middle of nowhere. They are going to be the elite. These guys are gonna be the best of the best. But what I think it hinges on is, what is that AI going to be like? This is something that developers always like to claim, is that their AI is the smartest that it's ever been before, but a lot of times it really isn't all that impressive. And so I'm hopeful that they're gonna be able to make these elite characters actually feel like they're at that level. And so if they're using advanced tactics, trying to flank you and catch you by surprise, then I think this game could have a lot of things going for it, but it really remains to be seen at this point. Overall, though, I'm really excited to learn more about Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I'm crossing my fingers that there's going to be a bit more story here. The one in the previous game was pretty much non-existent. It really didn't feel like there was much story elements, and so I'm hopeful that they're going to be able to interweave more of that into the game. But by and large, at the end of the day, I just want a more hardcore tactical experience, and if they're able to deliver that, I'm going to be pretty excited. The next question comes from Austin. It is, what is your opinion about Ubisoft adding a feature in a Siege where you can only find new matches and not be forced to join ongoing matches? It keeps happening to me with the score being 0-2 with only 3 people on my team. So I absolutely understand where you're coming from on this one. It feels like it's kind of wasting your time to join a match that's essentially over and then only get to play like a round at a severe disadvantage. Having that happen over and over and over again is going to get pretty annoying. But the thing is, though, is that I really don't know exactly what Ubisoft can do about this without causing other problems. So let's say, for example, Ubisoft does decide to add this feature, and every single time you join a game, it's at the very beginning, which is great. But then what happens in the middle of your game, because it is casual, and someone leaves? It's now a 4 versus 5. This happens all the time. It's casual. People are constantly going in and out. Well, then what happens if another person leaves? You're now at a 3v5 disadvantage. Now, because they added this feature that doesn't let anyone else in because it's only putting people at the start of a match, not in the middle, you never get anyone to help you out. So you're basically at a 3v5, 4v5 disadvantage for the rest of that casual match. That also doesn't sound all that enjoyable. Now, maybe Ubisoft could work around this by simply giving players 2 different options. You can select, hey, I want to be someone who only gets put into matches at the beginning, or I don't mind getting thrown into the thick of things at the middle of a match to help out those people when someone does leave. That might work, but I feel like most people would probably select that first one, and we might run into that same problem that we just talked about. And so in general, while I definitely see where you're coming from, I don't know if this is the perfect solution because it comes with its own problems. I definitely think that there are things that Ubisoft could probably do better here, but I don't know if this is the best way of going about it, but of course that is just my 2 cents. The next question comes from Ethan, and it is, do you think that Ubisoft should revert operator nerfs so that everything is overpowered, so everything counters each other like some other games? It would solve the problem of constant nerfing. I don't agree with this at all. I do know that other games sort of have this philosophy where if everyone's overpowered, then no one's overpowered because they all kind of balance each other out with their overpoweredness. But I find that a lot of those games just lead to a lot of frustration because you're just then going against characters that feel like they're gimmicky in some way. They do something so ridiculously powerful that if you don't have the counter against it in that moment, you just lose. Now, that is kind of rock, paper, scissors balance, so there is something to say for that, but I don't really think that works in a game like Rainbow Six Siege, and at least from my philosophy on gaming, it's something that I've never really liked when developers take that approach. I would rather developers nerf the ones that are too strong instead of just trying to increase the power of everyone else. Like, it's a lot more manageable to tone them down a bit instead of trying to fundamentally change every other character in the game. On top of that, even if they did what you recommended and reverted everything back to what it was, a lot of the operators in Rainbow Six Siege haven't seen a lot of nerfs. They are what they were at the very start. And so you bring Blackbeard, Lion, Ella to what they were a long time ago, they're just going to dominate like they did before. Those other operators that saw no changes or even saw buffs a long time ago, they're still not going to be able to compete with how ridiculously strong those other operators were. But yeah, guys, that is what it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed today. Are you looking forward to Ghost Recon Breakpoint? Do you think that Blitz is in a good place right now? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, if you'd like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until next time, guys, have a good one and take it easy.